one of the sections, 11.C, it's working with buyers. It's not super relevant yet in the market, so I skipped it. If you guys are interested and want to read it, you can get it. Victoria has printouts of them. You can go and read it, but it wasn't as relevant, so I decided to jump straight to the 12th tactic, as we're supposed to finish this up last week anyways. Is that the C right there?
I'll bring it in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so they'll have it for you as well. And Mike's going to be posting this online for you guys on Zoom, so you'll be able to see it. Hello, Zoom. Hello, Jocelyn and Holly and Cece and Ashley and Roy and Javier and Maria. Hope you guys are doing well. My eyes are tired.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, they're so tired. I had a sick baby at home.
Oh, man.
So I'm sleepy. All right, I'm up. All right, let's get going.
Coffee.
I've had a lot of coffee. All right, we're gonna jump straight to page 10 because the other stuff talks about what we've already talked about. So we're gonna be today focusing on bulletproofing your transaction. I was actually in conversation with one of our top agents here, say top 5 agents here, and she was talking about how many cancellations she's had and like how rare that is. Not used to it from where we've been at, right? And we will see more and more of that as times get more and more uncertain, okay? So this is about bulletproofing our transaction and making sure when we get into escrow, we're bulletproof. If I could sing, I would so be singing Titanium right now, and you guys would be so blessed, but I can hold that note.
I believe you.
I can't sing though. It's so sad. It's probably good. If I could sing, I'd be so annoying. Anyways, all right. So our perspective: 5 common problem areas: buyer's remorse, inspection and repairs, appraisals, loan approval and funding, communication. These are the top 5 reasons why people back out during the shifting market. Right now, the number 1 reason is probably still appraisals. People were going crazy with sales price. Appraisals were coming in low. We couldn't get those appraisals in, right? The bank will only loan what the house is appraises for. If you said you'd pay $550 for it and it only appraised for $525, seller don't care. You told me you're going to pay $550. I don't care what your bank says, right? It's not their problem that you told us yeah, it's on you. And the buyer goes, well, I can't afford it now. What can I do? I don't have $25,000, make a difference. Deal falls apart. All right? Sometimes the sellers will work with you. Just depends on how bad the appraisal came in and stuff like that. So appraisals have been the number 1 reason, but we'll see that start to shift as prices stay stagnant, and it's easier to get an appraisal when the house's prices aren't going up 20% every day. So we'll see what that looks like over time. So let's jump into buyer's remorse, bulletproofing strategies, proactive prevention. So we could be what? Proactive or reactive?
Proactive.
We want to be proactive. Why do you think we've been talking about shifts, market shift, challenges for the last 6 months to a year here at Keller Williams?
To prepare.
We want to be proactive. We want our agents to be prepared going into this time to make it work. Why am I bringing Bull to the Market Center in October?
Get us prepared.
Typically, Christmas time is the hardest time of year. We also know that economies typically only go negative GDP in the recession for between 6 and 18 months. So if we've already been in it for 3 to 5 to 6 months and we jump into bold and we really knock out the hard work and do a lot of hardcore getting to it, we will be able to thrive right our way into us turning this thing around, right? So we are being proactive here at the office. We have been cutting expenses for 6 months, trying to get expenses lower, expenses lower, expenses lower. Last month we had probably 20% less income just based off our normal numbers, and yet we still netted about the same because we've been so proactive in getting our expenses down, cutting programs we don't need, making sure we have everything's caught up, right? So we've been doing the same. This month's looking slow. It's looking really slow for an August, right? Escrow's slow because we see what's happening. We've been talking about it. So we're going to be in a position to go through this time and come out of it stronger than ever. Proactive. What does reactive look like? Reactive looks like a lot of what your competition is going to be doing over the next 6 months.
I'm broke, now it's agent.
Yep. Now it's time to lead gen. Now it's time to jump into it, right? So we have to be proactive in our business to think what's coming and how do we prepare for that, right? So first thing, outcome framing. What do you want to achieve, right? If you're working with buyers or sellers or going into escrow, what do we want to achieve, right? We want to close the escrow. We want to frame what's going to happen. We want to set expectations, realistic ones that they need to consider, right? So what do we realistically need to consider when we're going through a transaction? Let's say we're working with buyers. What do we realistically need to consider?
I think when we're writing offers, we still need to consider the appraised value, because if we write offers that are above and our buyer doesn't have that cash.
If you're working with a buyer and you're not doing a CMA before you write an offer, you're doing your buyer a major disservice. You want to see what the house is worth, right? You want to know what it's worth. Don't just look at Zillow. I mean, worst case scenario, go into Flex MLS and click the little RPR button. That'll give you a better representation of the price. But you want to make sure the price is real. You want to make sure their payment is realistic, right? They can afford it. They feel comfortable with it. There's nothing worse than getting to the closing table and they get their actual payment like, whoa,
Can't do that.
what is this? You're like, what are you talking about? Sometimes lenders like to get creative and just show you their payment without interest, or I'm sorry, without taxes and without insurance. If you buy a $500,000 home, how much are taxes going to be? About $6,000. Divide that by 12. Extra month on the payment.
Yeah.
Right? And so that if they're thinking they're getting this home for $2,200 a month and now it's $2,700, $2,800, $2,900, that's significant, right? Make sure you have a good lender that's doing that, but they want to understand what they're getting into so you don't waste everybody's time. Also, get them into buying a home. It's used. It's not going to be perfect. So we have home inspections and it's going to be the biggest, like one of the biggest things with buyers will do is get a home inspection and want to back out. Because they say, oh, it's not that great of a home, I thought it was going to be nicer. Typically that's the agent not preparing them well enough, right? Every home has major problems. Every home has things wrong with it, right? You just want to know, make sure you're comfortable going into it, fixing what may be wrong, and feeling comfortable about it, right? Preparing alternatives. What will we do if? So what will we do if it comes in and has termites?
Get it fixed.
Right? And we'll solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
My wife ran into this problem actually my sister-in-law, on how she was selling. They out in the middle of nowhere, out by the back entrance of the base, way out on the east side, and it came back with subterranean termites. Well, of course, you're out in the middle of nowhere, there's going to be bugs in the ground, right? It was no big deal at all. Freaked out the buyers, they backed out.
Oh.
It's 2-year warranty from the bug guy, didn't matter, they backed out. Like, so stupid. Such a stupid thing that probably could have been prevented if the conversation had beforehand. Like, hey, you're out in the middle of the desert, there's gonna be
It's a
bugs.
possibility.
There's a good chance we're gonna see subterranean termites. They're under the ground. It's gonna happen, right? But don't worry, it's common out here, and our termite inspector will give you a 2-year guarantee. And you just have them come out once every 2 years to double check everything. Problem solved, right? But except that didn't happen. So now it's still sitting on the market. Got a buyer at 3:30, way out in the middle of nowhere, take them out there. It's perfect. Anyways, prepare alternatives, or reassure. We're on track and we're doing fine, right? You have to be a therapist during this time. You gotta be a therapist during any time, but especially during this time. Buyer's remorse triggers. Tell them to get off the dang news. What happens when they get on the news and say, oh, interest rates are coming down next month, and they're locked in. I want out. Right? News reports that make them absolutely sure they have made the worst decision of their life. right? Friends who tell them they're nuts for buying the home now. Well, many family members who say, you paid that much for that house? Right? So these are things that trigger buyers going, wait a minute, did I do the right thing? When's the best time to buy that home? Yesterday. It's like planting a tree. Oh, Mr. Buyer, are you guys planning on being here? When we talked about this, you're planning on being here for the next 10 to 15 years, right? Yes. Well, thank God that we got an escrow today because prices are just going to go up every day from then. Like, it's a great move. Go ask anyone 20 years ago that bought a house if they regretted it today. Let's go find somebody that says they regretted it. Good luck, because they have so much freaking equity that they're fine, and it's a hedge against inflation, right? The future depends on what you do today. So provide an antidote for buyer's remorse. Mark the moments and then close as soon as possible. So if someone's starting to feel remorseful, you got to mark the moment and get to the feelings of what's doing it right. We don't want to force them into the home if they really want out of it, but we really want to get to the root cause and go back to the needs analysis that we did when we very first met with them and dove into why they're buying the home. Oh, I don't know, prices might come down. I'm not sure, the interest rate might come down a little bit. Well, let me ask you, you're okay with staying for another 3 to 6 months paying rent at $3,000 a month? 3, 6, 9, 12, $15,000, you're going to go to nothing. To save an interest rate that might come down 0.25%. Let's do the math there. Well, congratulations, you save $30 a month. So let's do the math till you get to $15,000. Oh, it doesn't come there. It doesn't happen, right? Sometimes some logic will prevail over, remember, feelings drive action. We're feeling like we made a mistake, we're feeling like we screwed up, it'll drive our action to get out of it. Sometimes logic could get through to those feelings, unless you're my wife. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. She's not on here. Just kidding. Right? But sometimes logic can get through to realizing, okay, you're right. The math doesn't make sense. Even if I do 0.25% more, or even it does come down a point, it doesn't make sense long term, and we can always refinance if it really does come down that low. All right. Bulletproofing strategies, what you do, mark the moment of the victory. Write down and how you thoroughly considered everything in the market and why this house is the one. So buying our home at 123 More Main Street is a great decision because, so what they're basically saying is you're asking the buyers to go through at the beginning of their decisions and write down what they love about the home. What the things they were, or actually the buyer's asking you to do it. So it says, we previewed 50 properties online. We looked at 20 houses from the outside. We toured 10 of the best houses. We are clear about what we want and don't want. We rejected a lot of homes because they were not the price right. We decided on this because of key reasons, right? So basically you're getting them to really see why they love the home and remember all the struggles they went through to find the home. Making sure the buyers are really excited about getting this house. So antidote for buyer's remorse, you have to consistently resell buyers on their decision. So if you are having people that are wishy-washy, not sure about themselves, you want to consistently be reselling them about their decision. Man, you guys made a great decision. The house is great. Man, this is a great neighborhood. Man, I'm super excited for you guys, right? Keep those positive vibes going. Seller's remorse. Sellers. Sellers. All right, so sellers are remorsing because first, do a CMA, right? Make sure you're pricing it right. Of course, you're not going to take a listing without really knowing what it's worth. And we did a CMA in this class already together about how we're pricing homes and being more strategic with how we're pricing them. My wife took a listing this last week with some friends, a family. They're dead set on a certain amount they need to make. We tried to convince them, and they just were dead set because the neighbors did sell at the exact same price and the same model. Totally get it, right? It's just not the activity that you would hope for this week, right? Beautiful home. You'd think you'd have calls nonstop. Nothing. And it's just that time. It's just exactly what we've been talking about, experiencing it firsthand. Like, wow, I'm surprised we didn't get more people coming through. I'm not, right? Remind sellers of their motivations to move, right? So in this particular case, they are moving out of state. The gentleman has been here for the last 20 years, 30 years. His family has a farm in upstate New York, 200 acres. He's been wanting to move back right on the border of Canada. Beautiful, gorgeous country, and he's been wanting to go back for a long time. He thought it was going to be a couple of years before he could retire, but with the economy and everything it's doing what it's been doing, they're able to do it, so he's really excited about going. So we keep coming back to getting him to New York. Get him to New York, so they don't change their mind. He wants to get to New York. Remind sellers about their destination. Discuss the risk of starting over. So if they say, hey, we're going to wait another 6 months to a year, would that be a good move? I don't know, maybe not. We'll see what happens. I mean, in 6 months it may be worse. In 6 months it might get better and prices might continue to go up. Or prices could still be on their downward trend. We don't know. Is that worth the risk? We do know this is the highest point that it's ever been for their home, ever. That's what we do know. Let's take advantage of that, even if we get less than what we originally wanted to get this thing sold. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Close as soon as possible. That really is the best advice ever. Make sure if your lender isn't doing DUs and getting them like able to close in 21 days or less, 17 days, you really, really want to get these things closed, because every extra day is an extra thing for a piece of news or some random thing that could happen that could automatically kill the deal. Every day in escrow, it's like, oh, just a few more days of escrow, not a big deal. Typically not, unless something bad happens, and then it is, right? So, get the thing closed, get the thing closed, get the thing closed. And what should we do? Get the thing closed. All right. Early response, stay on track. So, really the difference between most agents and great agents is some sort of system around communication with their clients and other agents as well. When I talk to so many people, and everybody has their opinion on everybody's an agent, some are great, some are bad. The number one thing that gets agents good or bad is communication. That's it. If you want to be known as a great agent in the Antelope Valley, answer your damn phone. Get back to people. I don't answer my phone anymore because there's too many damn telemarketers or whatever that aren't real. Like, I know my warranty on my car's expired. Like, stop for the love calling me, right? Yet I'll call back right as soon as I can, right? Call back. Bad news, and it sucks real bad. Just call back and tell them. Get it over with. It's like, don't let that pressure weigh on you. It's better to do something than live in the fear of it. Get it done with it, right? So most agents that are known as great agents in the Antelope Valley are the ones that communicate at a high level or have a time when they get back to people. So like JD on his voicemail, he does a great job. If he doesn't answer his phone in the morning, his voicemail says that he's actively prospecting. He'll call you back at his time frame between 12 and 12:30. As long as at 12 to 12:30 he actually gets back to those people, it's a great system, right? He will get back to you during that time if he missed you. So please consistently communicate. So you take a listing, how often do you communicate with the buyers or sellers? I'm sorry, the sellers.
Twice a week.
Twice a week? That's your system?
Or
What days?
As there's an update.
Unless
Monday
there's a-
after the weekend, Friday just to wrap up the week.
Awesome. Does it email, text message, phone call? What do you do?
Call, usually I ask their preference
Okay.
for communication, but.
Beautiful. So system around it, right? She knows how many times she communicates with them, it automatically happens. Inspecting expectations. So with the sellers, inspect what their expectations are and what's realistic. So a lot of sellers right now are expecting multiple offers above asking price sold in 25 seconds. They are still, they really think it's still in that market, but we're not. Even cookie cutter beautiful stuff isn't going as quick. It's just not, right? So they have to have that expectation. So how do we give them that expectation?
Tell them the truth straight up.
To tell them the truth, bring in your listing presentation, bring the data points, right? We give you data points every month during lore. We give you slides that you could use, you could bring in your listing presentations, telling them what's going on with the market. So bring the data points, show them what's going on, show them how the market's slowing down, show them how days on market jumped up like 15 days in 1 month, last month, right? You have to be the economist of choice, but they have to believe you and show them the data to back it up. Give them inspecting their expectation of what's realistic so they're not coming in frustrated, right? Or coming in frustrated like, wait, why didn't it sell this weekend? You know what I mean?
I was just gonna mention when you do, because obviously your CMAs within the last 90 days, I've been like dissecting it and showing them like, hey, I know that this one from May, that's significantly different from
Yep.
May to July closing. And then you'll see that I've even like went as far as seeing the seller credit, because now those are popping in.
And showing them like,
To show
look at all
them,
these
like,
seller
look.
credits that people are trying to push.
Yeah, so going a little step further, because
Yep.
it's too vague
Yep.
or too broad when you go from this point to this price, right? Really seeing when they closed, what they asked for originally, because those may have been listed in April,
Yep.
May.
And it was better
It's
than-
different,
Yeah, it is.
so.
It's shifting that quickly,
Mhm.
right? That's a great point, because in a CMA class, how far back can an appraiser go when they're doing an appraisal to find comps?
6 months?
They can go back 6 months, right? Appraiser's not gonna do that if they only need to go back 30 days and they have 4 comps, right? They're gonna go back further and further until they find the best comps. The best comps are sold within a mile, if not closer, within 20% square footage, in the closest amount of time. So if you could find comps that are only 20 days old, use those, right? And then you could show them how things have changed. And look at the active sitting on the market for 25 days, trying to do, or 30 days or 40 days, trying to get the best price. You have to set the expectation. You have to be the economist of choice when you're meeting with these people. All right? Problem solving. You're in the business of making deals happen. You can make some random crazy stuff happen, right? If it needs to. Be a problem solver, right? Most people, when we talked about the class about the 2-to-1 buy downs, a seller to carry a second or a third or whatever that is, those are people being creative to find solutions to sell the home, right? If you have people willing to pay ball, we have a signed contract, we can make this work. You could be a problem solver. That's what your job is. Get creative, solve the problems. When something pops up, you have to get creative and say, okay, what can we do? What can we do? There's ways to solve problems, right? Then contract to close, tracking, keeping on track with where you're at in your contract to close. If you're the listing agent, getting those notice to performs ready. If you don't have contingency removal, getting the thing going and moving consistently on time, right? We all have issues pop up. There's too many parties involved to not, right? There's the worst part about real estate, the part that I hate about real estate, is there's so many third parties that you just can't fix the problem to, right? If there's a title issue, I can't just go fix it. If there's a problem with escrow or the lender, I can't just go over there and say, okay, let me go find the underwriter, I'm gonna go do it for them and get these problems figured out, right? You're relying on so many other people, third parties problem, right? So you have to be on track of where everything's at and where things are moving. And take lead. I remember when I was new, I was so nervous to take lead of the transaction. Well, most agents won't take lead, they'll just sit around and do nothing, so take lead. Where are we on with that? If you're representing the seller and the buyer's agent isn't doing a good job talking to the lender, call the lender. Where are we at? What can we do? Call escrow. When you call escrow and they tell you a story, you call the lender and they tell you a story, you call title and they all tell you 3 different stories, right? Go in there, say, let me see it. Let me see what's going on, right? Get to the truth. Typically, it's the lender. Everyone blames escrow, but typically it's the lender. Sometimes it could be someone else. All right, handling buyer's remorse. What works when buyers change their minds about buying a house?
Motivation.
Huh?
Their motivation.
Yeah, but let's say I'm in escrow for $500,000 on the home. I say, you know what, I think we're going to wait. I just feel like the market's probably going to shift, like it's going to come down in 6 months and I'm going to overpay for this home. What can we do?
Ask questions.
Get to the heart of it, right? So what kind of questions can we ask?
Well, are you going to fail in 6 months when this home isn't no longer available? Are you going to feel when interest rates go up and your payments more a month?
Yeah, how we feel when interest rates still go up, and according to, there's a great slide I've shown on Laura like 3 times. According to every single major player, they expect house prices to go up still on average 10% this year. We're still up 10% this year, right? So everyone expects prices to still remain to go up. This time next year, the house might be more expensive and interest rates could be higher and you'll be looking at a worse area, right? Let's do the math. What are you paying for rent? You're gonna pay someone else's mortgage to maybe save some money on this home? Like, a home buying thing, I promise you in 10 years, you're gonna make the right decision. Let's show you the graph that shows you over time, 4% a house appreciates over year, over year, over year. It's for savings as you're paying down the loan to own it outright, right? So you have a lot of tools in your tool belt. You just gotta take advantage of them and use them. But you've gotta get to the root of it. Ask great questions. Why are you, what's making you concerned? What's changed your mind? Where did you hear this information, right? Get to the bottom line of it. Well, my parents just keep telling me, great, let's bring your parents in, let's go over and talk about it. Right? Or whatever it is. Parents, they're worst.
They don't know anything.
There's so many of those funny memes about like the dad getting out of inspection for the daughter to kill the deal. And gosh, it's so true. Dad's getting out to like, oh, we're gonna get through this house. And you're like, Dad, go away. Gosh. Dad. When my daughter buys a house, I'm so gonna be that guy. I can't wait.
I can't wait.
I'm a realtor. I know what's going on. Okay, inspections and repairs. All right, conversations with customers, sellers. So prepare sellers for what to expect in your market. Acknowledge their feelings and concerns. Ask if sellers are willing to risk losing the buyers. Suggest a pre-inspection to prevent unexpected repairs. So home inspections are typically right there with appraisals for what kills deals, right? Someone does a home inspection, hey, it needs a roof. Seller doesn't want to spend, $12,000 or $13,000 on the roof, buyer's out, right? Now seller knows that it needs a roof, they have to disclose for the next. It's gonna be a lot challenging to get that home sold, right? So home inspections, having a pre-inspection is not a bad idea if it's terrible, if they're willing to do it. And the buyer would still most likely have a home inspection themselves, so I don't know if it's necessary depending on the home. But preparing sellers what to expect in your market, obviously if you're letting them know, last year we were saying, who cares, as is, will not make a repair, don't ask. We're gonna get 15 offers anyways, if you ask, we'll kick you to the curb, and we'll get another one. Now we're like, we'll get you a new roof.
Gary, quick question.
You want new floors? New floors. You want a fridge? I got a fridge, right?
So, hypothetically, can a pre-inspection do harm as well?
Yeah.
Because you have to disclose.
Yeah, I don't think I would do one. I don't think I would do one.
Oh, right.
It's on here. I mean, maybe in a real market, if the house is real in between, if they're like, hey, we want to fix some stuff up. You could, hey, let's get an inspection. You could fix everything, and we let them know. But yeah, I don't know if I would designate. Yeah, because now you might.
You'd have to disclose or something.
Stuff.
You might have that can of worms, and
Yeah.
but now they can't afford to fix it. And I mean, look, the buyer's most likely going to get an inspection anyways. They're going to have to do it either which way. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know.
Would you just let the seller, would you mention that to the seller, we could do a pre-inspection?
If they were super concerned, so there is a few. Most sellers are like, I want to do the least amount of things possible, make the most amount of money, right? But there are a few sellers who are very much like want the house to be perfect. They want to make sure they left a nice thing, and they're like, we just want to make sure there's nothing wrong with it. Like, hey, look, why don't you get a pre-inspection? You could have someone come in, they charge about $300. They'll go through the whole home, give you a nice list of things that you could do before we list the house. I've probably ran into maybe 2 or 3 of those types of people that would have done that. But the buyer's going to do it anyways. So if you just prepare them, saying, hey, whenever I do a net sheet, I always put $2,000 in repairs. I never not put $2,000 in repairs on a net sheet. And I tell them, look, I have $2,000 in repairs in here. Most homes don't have this amount. Hopefully we don't do. But if something pops up, we're not scared about it because we already have it on there. And always, my net sheets, they make more than what they actually net at the end. They always make more because I always quote them, under promise, over deliver. They love me. Oh my gosh, we got more. Yeah, that's great. Right?
How do you do that?
For the net sheet?
Yeah, like what do you do to
So there's, in a net sheet, you could put it whatever you want. So I put in costs that are higher. So I'll put in cost exactly for like repairs, 2,000, there's a miscellaneous cost for 1,000. Typically, I make sure that we're on the low end of the sales price when I do a net sheet. So if I told them it's gonna be 550, I put 540, right? And I say this is kind of worst case scenario, right? You'll net 310, and like, that'd be great. And a lot of times they'll net 315 or 320.
Highlight estimated.
Yeah, it's an estimate, right? And we don't know, off the top of our head, we don't know what it's gonna sell for when we do a net sheet, right? We're just going to show them what we expect it to sell for. But if I say it's 550, and I give them a net sheet for 550, and then when we get an offer for 540, and they need 5,000 in closing, and we go to escrow, well, now they're gonna net 15,000 less, minus some other stuff, right? But if I was at 540, and I had some repairs and some inspection, they're still actually pretty close, and they look at, oh, and I give them the net sheet of what it's truly gonna be, and then what it is now, it's not so painful, if that makes sense. I never give a net sheet for what the amount is, I almost never. Okay. With buyers, recommend inspectors you trust. This is a part of the story I told about the termite. They wanted to use their bug guy. Their bug guy worked for like a Terminex company. How do those guys make money?
Finding a problem.
They get paid hourly and they get bonused off upsells and services they get monthly. So if you look, if you pay for a pest guy to come to your house, right? A lot of times they'll knock on your, hey, we solved some beehives. We have this thing that's extra for $40 or $50 for this one-time use, but we'll get rid of it. You go, yeah, that'd be great, right? You want to get rid of it. They actually make a cut on everything that they sell in most of those companies. So this person comes out to the house, sees the subterranean, and goes, oh, we'll have to come out once a month, we'll have to spray, it's gonna be a thing. Like, he's trying to sell his product to make money off this, right? I send my termite guy out there, he gives me a 2-year guarantee, and it's like a $300 fix, right? But unfortunately, they wanted to use their guy, their person. I don't have control over that in this situation of being the seller, but it's frustrating because if they would have just used the right termite guy, no big deal.
And you didn't go forward with explaining that?
They weren't my people.
Oh, okay.
Sellers, they were buyers,
Okay.
right? So, educate buyers about what they are in the process and what comes next. So there's a lot of people that don't like certain inspectors because they call them deal killers. And once again, I say this is like leads. People are like, oh, these are bad leads. I go, I don't know if it's bad inspectors and bad leads or if it's just bad agents. Meaning that they didn't prepare their clients for what the deal would look like. Now, there is good inspectors. That one guy that we recommend, Ryan, he does a really good job of packaging bad news, right? Where if it's not the best, he gives the solutions and how to make it good, right? Some inspectors are just like, go to, this is bad, get an electrician, you're all gonna burn, right? And so those ones you don't wanna use. But if you prepare your clients, you should be okay either which way. So for example, Tim Spargo is known as someone that's a pretty hard inspector. I know if you are there during the inspection, Tim walks around and goes, it's really not a big deal, you just blah, 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 you got some things here, no big deal. But when you get the report, he's covering his own ass. It seems dangerous. It's like, oh my gosh. So I prepared my clients, here's what he's gonna do. He's covering his own ass so you can't sue him. But he does a really good job, and he gets in there. If you go, he explains how easy it is to fix things, and we can talk about it. We can get a repair estimate. A lot of the times, the GFCI, ground fault, whatever, GFCI?
The outlets?
Outlets?
Yeah.
They're not a big deal. They're like $3 at Lowe's. There are 2 buttons, you turn off the power, plop it out, plop it in, it's easy. But that freaks people out when they could cause fire. It's, oh my gosh, it's next to water. I don't want the home. Like, oh my God, it's a $3 fix. Like, but if you don't prepare them and explain it, and if you don't know, you damn sure should go figure it out so you know how to explain it and make sure you feel good about it. Remind buyers that inspectors document everything, right? That's what we talked about. Help buyers focus on the big picture, important issues. Like the house is gonna fall over issues. I had a client once it was Joy Murphy's house, agent with us. And I had to walk over to Joy and I said, Joy, I'm just apologizing. I have to send this request for repairs, and it's the most ridiculous, stupid thing I've ever sent in my entire life. And she laughed, and I was like, I'm sorry. I couldn't get this client to not be ridiculous. The house was 1 year old.
No way.
1 year old, and I was out of spaces for the request of the repairs. She wanted to put in on one section of tile, but I got her out of this one. A little bit of grout was missing. She wanted fixed. And I was
I
like,
want to know what a freaking.
I was like, even if they fix that, it's not going to match the color. You don't want to do that. That is not a good idea. And it was crazy, right?
It's like new
We had set the expectations. I let them know this is a wish list. They don't even have to respond. It was fine. They fixed a couple small things. We went to closing, and the oven was missing one of the pans on the bottom. And she called me. I just don't understand why they would sell that house. I was like, oh my God, lady, you are nuts.
Lose money.
I am not dealing with you ever again. You are out of my database. I don't want
What's
to
her
follow
name and phone number?
Yeah, go ahead. All yours.
I'll deal with her.
All yours. Okay, intent inspections, right? You want to. Sometimes it can be long and tedious, but if you want to get these deals closed, you got to know what's going on. See what the inspector's saying. Try to have your people there with the inspector so they feel good about it. Negotiations. So find out how much repairs will cost. This is a big mistake I think most agents do, is they don't have any idea what they're asking for to be fixed and the cost is. Sometimes you'll get a request for repairs and it's like, all these things or $1,500, and you're like, all these things are like $150. Like, no, right? It's the buyer is just their seller a disservice because they made it seem like it'd be really expensive to fix all these things. Some people are super handy, right? I can do 95% of these things. I'm going to do this. Why would I pay someone? Some people aren't. So even switching out a plug that's super easy is like the end of the world to them. And they don't want to do it, right? And so you have to set the expectation to know what things cost to fix. So if you get that, which is super common, which is the GFCI outlets that aren't up to code, you let them know it's just about a $3 or $4 outlet at Lowe's. And it's an easy procedure. You can pay someone to do it. I do it at my house all the time. You switch off the power, pull it out, put it in, screw it in. It's a 3-minute fix, right? Not a big deal. Enlist the other agent as your ally. Call the other agent. Say, hey, we got a problem. My buyers are freaking out because this, the hot water heater platform it's on is not secure and they feel like it might fall, and they had a past experience with a hot water heater falling over and causing damage in their house or something. I don't know, making stuff up, right? Call the other agent like, hey, are they, what can we do? This will kill the deal. Is there anything we can do to get this fixed? What are the sellers thinking? If they're like, look, the sellers are broke, they don't have a single dollar to fix this. Okay, hey look, I'll send my guy out there. What if we just split it and that way we can close this deal, right? Sometimes you have to do these things to get a deal closed. I've put on more than one set of hot water heater straps because the selling agent and the seller were nowhere to be found, and I have an appraiser coming, and I know it's going to get called out, and I've asked 7 times for them to put it on, and they haven't. And so I'm there with my $30 straps I went and bought out there into the wall because I don't want that to get called out, right?
You did it yourself?
Oh yeah, I don't want that to get called out. Should I recommend that? No, because then you could get sued, but they're gonna pay somebody to go out and do the same thing. Hot water heater straps, they go into a stud, you strap it to the wall. It's not hard. I'm just trying to get stuff done, right? Becky, have you ever helped with the cost of repair?
Out of my own pocket?
Yeah,
Of course,
right?
fortunately,
Of course, we all have.
to get the deal closed.
But some agents are like, I don't do anything, that's I'm like, you're dumb. Like, that sounds so dumb to me.
I had to do trash outs, not on my listing.
Yeah.
Another shameful agent that left,
Yeah?
I hand cleaned it myself. Because my buyer was livid. I
Yeah?
wasn't gonna make her pay for it,
No.
so
I had to show up on a listing with Ward Gatling over at Century 21. I had to show up with a trailer and gloves because the seller was actually crazy. Left all this trash and everything.
tired.
I showed up, he actually showed up too, and because he's buyer, and I was just like, hey man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be there, and he showed up to help. It was super cool. loaded up a whole trailer in my truck full of crap.
Because they agree that it's gonna be delivered a certain way.
Yeah, it's
You
on
do
the contract.
walkthrough,
Yeah.
They verify.
But really though, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna take them to small claims and go to court just to get some of the like?
500.
Yep. Me and Warren took care of it, and I have now I have a good relationship with him. We shook hands, like thank you for helping. He's like thank you for doing that. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Home warranties. So home warranties are pretty common now. Not everywhere, but in California, they're almost always. The sellers sometimes are like, like the agents that are during this time were countering out home warranties, or the buyer to pay for the home warranty, or not going to do a home warranty. I thought was stupid. I thought it was really dumb and bad advice for the agent. The reason being is they're saving their seller $400 or $500, and that's insurance, baby.
Yes, it is.
So many times, if you use Stacy, and if they use something, you'll get a notification of what your clients used. All right? So many times, a sink broke or a hot water heater broke or the AC doesn't work, or it happens a lot. You will get that call. Great, call the home warranty. That's why we got it for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Where there's a home warranty, I strongly recommend that you do get this for them, because what happens is, let's say 3 days after your AC breaks, they're going to call you if you don't get it and threaten to sue you, because they're going to say that you knew something was wrong and you have to prove you didn't. Now you're in a legal liability. Or they call the home warranty and they take care of it. You're making $310,000, for the love of God, just give them a $500 warranty.
Right?
Like, common sense here. You're going to pay an agent $30,000 to sell the home. You're going to pay escrow all this. No, the home warranty is where I draw the line. Right? That's done. All right?
Man, fuck for that 3% commission.
Yeah. Negotiating inspection repairs. What are the best practices resolving inspection issues? So first off, if you're a buyer and you send in a request for repair, does the seller have to do anything?
No, I would say process of elimination. Like if it's not an appraisal call out, it's not something safety or hazard, yeah, like, how do you feel about that? Should that be something that the buyer takes on? Is it cosmetic? Is it truly neglect? Like,
I mean, really, contract says, I always prepare the buyers, because they always have to send it in, that you are sending in as is. The sellers don't even, we could ask, absolutely, you don't have to buy the home. And the sellers don't even have to respond.
yeah.
There's nothing in, no response is a response to the request to repairs. Says it right at the top. You do not have to respond. Say, no, we're not gonna do anything. You offered as is. Doesn't matter. But it's a lender required repair. I don't give two craps. Get a different lender, pay cash. I don't care. It's as is. They don't have to do anything. Now, no other lender is gonna loan on the home, so if they really wanna sell it, they probably should take care of it, and that's why most do. But the reality is, a lot of times buyers come into like, well, you have to. You have to fix this. It's a safety issue. No, I don't. I don't have to do anything. Sellers don't have to do anything. Right? So I go hard at the buyers that way. Why? Because the sellers aren't gonna be asking for a request for repair. Just the buyers are. So I try to get it really into their head. Look, we could ask, we could do our best. That lady, that crazy lady was one of my early transactions in my life, and I learned a lot from that, right? No, never again am I gonna be doing that, that's stupid, right? So really hard about them, they don't have to. Now, if something comes up that they're not comfortable with, great, totally understand that. Let's do the best we can to get it resolved. Let's make sure it's truly worth going after though, right? Big picture on that side. So what's best practices resolving inspection? I think you said it pretty well, is you're gonna wanna look at it and make sure, my gosh, I run out of time so fast. This class should be 2 hours. You're gonna wanna look at it and make sure that it's reasonable, it makes sense, it's something they really want, right? And then you're gonna be working with the seller's agent or the buyer's agent and coming to a deal that makes sense. A lot of times I think a phone call before a request comes in is powerful. Like if I call Becky, hey Becky, how are the sellers looking at repairs? She's like, well, when I do my CMAs, I always tell them $2,000 for the repair. So if it's under that, I think they're gonna be good. Okay, good, because I do think this thing's gonna be about $1,500 worth. We think we'll be all right. Yeah, like are they better at cash or getting it fixed? Sending cash because they don't want to deal with it. Okay, I'll send a $1,500 request for repair in lieu of repairs. right? Now Becky gets the thing, she already knows it's there, she's ready for it, right? Instead of sitting there in your email, you open up, oh my God, there's 33 things on here? Like, what the hell are they thinking?
So unnecessary.
It's so unnecessary, right?
I
So,
had to talk, I know, sorry, this is long class, but I literally just had to talk my buyer out of not sending a request for repair, and I know that sounds awful, but they wanted to have an $8,000 credit for the roof that had absolutely nothing wrong with it. The roof inspector couldn't notate anything because the roof was in great condition, but because of the fact that it's been, I don't know, 17 years, it had said that in the future, right, it may need to be replaced. It said, because one day, and I'm like, do you want to ask for the flooring to be paid for because later it
Yeah.
might get stained?
yeah.
Like, I can't work with
One
that.
day this couch is not gonna be great, and we're
Right?
gonna need a new one.
I was
One
bamboozled by this,
Yeah.
and I'm like, do you understand that I have nothing, I'm going off of it, in fact, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not, we can't ask for something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, you're asking
She
for
was talking
future
about a
babies.
hypothetical
Yeah.
later cost.
Yep, can't do that.
Sickening.
Alright, loan approval and funding, regardless of which side you represent, make sure the buyer uses a reputable, trustworthy lender. If you don't know the lender that it comes in, unfortunately, sometimes you know the lender and you know it's gonna suck, but it's your only options and you're stuck to it. And that sucks. But if you know they'll get the deal closed and you feel good about it, then you move forward. If they aren't, and you get multiple offers, maybe go a different direction. Maybe have your lender back up pre-qualified.
How do you have your lender, if you're the listing agent, like how do you go about asking them to cross-qualify?
So in the agent remarks, you say, please submit all offers and have your lender reach out to this lender to cross-qualify. The buyer, you don't, as it turns into more of a buyer's market, people won't be like, no, like, do you want my offer or not, right? But when it's a seller's market, you could request these things because it's private information that the buyer now has to agree to let the lender use, right? So I'm gonna let this other lender see what my credit score is and all this other stuff. They typically don't run it, they just take what they have and they make sure that it
Yeah.
looks good. It's just one of those dicey things, right? When you're in a complete buyer's market and someone asks me to back up pre-qualified buyer and tell them, I'd say F off, take it or leave it, right? You've been on market 84 days. You know, what are you gonna do? No, you're desperate. Like, oh, just try, please.
You want to go to 84 days or not?
Yeah. Offer names of 2 or more reputable lenders. When you're on the buyer side, make sure that just try to get them to use your lender. It sucks when they're like, but this credit union is gonna be 0.25% lower, and you're like, great. And I always tell people some credit unions are great. I just will let you know a lot of them will not talk to me, and I will not be able to be your advocate and help us along the process. There'll be a lot more work on you on the buying side. So a lot of credit unions will not talk to the agent.
Why?
Because you are not local lenders get paid off commission. A lot of times credit union lenders, bank lenders, they're salary. And so a lot of times they just don't give a crap about it, and they don't have to because you are not their client. The client's their client. When you're working with a local lender, you both want the commission. So you're both doing everything you can to get that deal closed, right? They're calling you, going, hey, this is going on. You're calling them, hey, right? It's a teamwork to get it closed, right? So, all right, we gotta scoot along here. Pre-qualified versus pre-approved, get them a DU. Get them to the DU, meaning they're desktop underwritten, meaning that they can close quickly. They're basically ready to rock. All they need to do is get a contract in hand. The 10 Commandments of Loan Application. This one's a good one. I think I sent this out not too long ago. We did a class on this. Thou shalt not change jobs, become self-employed, or quit your job. Thou shalt not buy a car, truck, or van, or you could be living in it. Thou shalt not use charge cards excessively or let your accounts fall behind. Thou shalt not spend money you have set aside for closing. Thou shalt not omit debts or liabilities from your loan application. Thou shalt not buy furniture. Thou shalt not originate any inquiries into your credit. Thou shalt not make large deposits without first checking with your loan officer. Thou shalt not change bank accounts. Thou shalt not co-sign a loan for anyone. These are things that kill deals. People, like, there's another joke that you see me, is like the buyer pulling up in their brand new car, like for the final inspection. Like, yeah, we're not gonna get this house now, thanks. Right, it happens, we joke about it. The reason why we joke about it is because it happens. My loan officer sends this out to he has his own, it's the exact same ones, he just made it cute on his own, that he sends out to each one of the people that approved. Do not let them go buy a car. Do not let them go spend money. Anticipate any, avoid any funding problems. So if for whatever reason, if like, oh, some of this is gonna be a gift, we're gonna wait, make sure that's taken care of beforehand. Okay, when is the gift coming in? How can we transfer it over to escrow? We need a gift statement. Let's make sure these things are taken care of. Have a great relationship with your lender. Appraisals, what can the real estate agent do to make sure the buyer's agent is adequate loan to make sure the purchase?
CMA.
Do a great CMA. Know how to do them. They're not hard. Look what the prices are. Make sure you feel good about it. Low appraisals. Do a thorough CMA. List the house at appropriate price. Have an appraiser done if there are no comps. Sometimes people say there's no freaking comps. This one's really, really hard. Been there. Sold a house that had a 6-car tandem garage. Middle Port Sill. There wasn't one other house I could find over the last 3 years that had a 6-car garage. Right? It was a badass garage. I wanted it myself, all encased. It would put 6 cars in there, attached to the house, beautiful home. How do you comp that? Super hard. I tried to find another 6-car garage and see the price difference. Couldn't do it. So what's a way to do it?
Hire an appraiser.
Just go get an appraiser.
How much are they?
About $300 typically. If you hire a self-appraiser, because they don't have to go through the company, then there's more charges they charge. It's like $300 to $400.
I didn't even know you could do that. I thought I like stick to the house. Just a,
Just go get an appraisal. It's not going through a long process,
Wow.
right? Have an appraisal done if there are no comps.
Single done, I mean, are you doing that before or after you have a listing?
Before, so you list it at the right price. Sometimes you recommend like, look, there's nothing out here. I don't want to guess. Another strategy is if you're not having 4 to 5 showings in a week, you're probably priced too high. You want to lower, but you want to lower aggressively and quickly. But you don't know. Appraiser comes out here and goes, "This is what it's worth."
Yeah.
And guess what? That appraisal might be a lot different than when one comes in, but you're hoping you get the appraisal to the appraiser and go, "Hey, I had a pre-appraisal done. Here it is. You know, if that helps you with your job." They go, "Thank you." And that way they don't have to do anything. They just copy what they did and they get paid, right? Funding options for low appraisals. So additional down payment from the buyer, financial gift from a parent or family, taking a second mortgage, seller assisted options. So appraisal comes in $50,000 low. Uh-oh, it's gonna kill the deal, right? Well, what if the sellers own it outright? Maybe the sellers would carry a second note at a 7% to pay the difference. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Did you ask? Did we get creative to solve our problems? A second mortgage, talk to the lender if there's other options. Taking a second, most likely that doesn't work because they're only gonna be approved for so much. They wanna be approved for that second loan, but you never know. Additional down payment from the buyer, additional down payment for the seller. Hey seller, would you come down in price? Can we meet in the middle? They have 15,000. Can you come down 35 and make this work? You never know. Dealing with appraisals. What appraisal problems have you encountered, heard from? We're out of time, so I'm going to go faster. Key players, so your escrow officer, your lender, your appraisal, your real estate lawyers, your title companies, other real estate agents, buyers and sellers, right? You need to have communication plans with all these people. You know what's going to be happening. Your escrow officer, state communication as soon as the contract is signed. I walked into Shauna's office at least once a week. Maybe not that much, but almost once a week. Just to say hi and check up on my escrow. That's why I like using contract, because I can go do that. I can walk in and say, hey, what's going on, right? Surveys and vendors, avoid misunderstandings and difference of expectations, ask questions and get things in writing, communicate clearly and often. 1 minute. I'm perfect on time. So not perfect on time. Okay, yeah, we're pretty good. All right, so the bottom line, communicate often with all the key people. We said this before, say it again. George, what makes a great real estate agent?
Somebody that works with me.
Perfect. Someone that communicates. A communicator. When it sucks, when stuff goes wrong, it's the agent's fault or someone's fault. But when they call and own it and they tell you, it's not that big of a deal.
Here's the thing, with all clients, it's your fault.
Yeah, well, all clients, it's your fault. But you want to be the one to communicate that's going on. Hold on 1 second. My 10 o'clock meeting is a minute early. Calling me. So communicate. The agents that communicate the most effectively are some of the best agents in the Antelope Valley.
100%.
Even when things go wrong, You know what's going on, they give you an update, you get the call, hey, this is what's going on. Unfortunately, with the lender, they didn't realize that they co-signed, the buyer didn't tell us, we're working on getting this resolved, I'm gonna have an answer for you like by tomorrow. Damn it, that sucks, but thank you for letting me know. Right? It's way better than a week later, I don't think we're gonna make it, I guess they co-signed. You just now found this out? No, you knew, you just didn't say anything because you were scared to make the phone call. So communicate. Spend plenty of time with your customers, handle or closely oversee the contract to close process. Anticipate problems and take preventative actions to avoid them. Understand the mindset of buyers and sellers. Look for creative solutions. Never give up. Trust your instincts. Remember, communicate, be proactive, never give up. Be creative, okay? Be creative, be creative, be creative. If you think, crap, we're not going to close, there's a $30,000 difference. Go to George. George, have any ideas? He might give you an idea that you never thought of that might work. That you might be like, oh, I didn't know that. Be creative. All right? All right, that's all we got. I know you guys are doing track right now, so thank you guys. That's the end of shift. That's it. That's all 12 tactics. I hope you liked it. I enjoyed teaching it because a lot of it was like, man, this is good. Really good stuff. We are going to be starting the new hardcore Ignite on September 13th. It's 5 days a week. It's 2 hours of lead gen early in the morning as a group. And then there's 2 hours of training in the afternoon from 1 to 3 every day for a month. So if you want to get your butt into gear,
What time will be the morning one?
the morning lead gen is going to be from 9 to 11. And then the training is going to be from 1 to 3. So how it works is you do the training, the next morning you do the lead gen on that training. Then you do the training, the next morning you do the lead gen on that training. So keep on your calendar, get ready for that. It's going to be great. As soon as that ends, we have Bold. If you guys have considered, Bold is a somewhat of more of an advanced, more for the top agents, but anyone can take amazing, like it's an amazing class. Bold is not us though. We have to bring in a certified coach. It's an $800 course and it goes 8 weeks. So the first step to Bold's free, so I would expect everybody there, no matter what, you go to the first step because it's free, right? And put money aside, it is a great class. It's a hardcore, get your mindset, get into action class with tactics and strategies. So we're going hard about getting into activities, getting into the business, because we want you guys to be around next year. 400,000 agents they expect to be out of the business by this time next year. 400,000. That's a 25% of all agents across the nation.
Sheesh.
Don't be one of them. Get your butts in the gear, be in these classes, do the activities, so you can dominate, you survive, you get some business, then dominate as all these other people at Remax and Century 21 get out of the business and we keep going.
The average agent that takes Bold increases their production within the time of Bold by 16 deals.
What's the timeline for both of these things?
So in September is Ignite, October is Bold. We're going hard for the Legion for you guys to get your mindsets right. It's not easy. It's not easy. I know it. I know it's hard to get up into Legion every day to figure out what you're going to do. But Legion doesn't mean you have to cold call people for 3 hours a day. That's not what it means, right? Legion could be dominating sphere of influence, right? Doing events for your family and friends. Legion could be social media, being very specific, going around, hey, I'm over here, woo, right? Becky kills it on that. Becky's always doing random stuff like, ah, and she gets a ton of business from it, right? You have to figure out what works for you and what you're going to do and doing it at a high level. All right, George, take it away.
Gracias. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing today on this fantastic Tuesday morning? How'd you like the last class of Bold? Shift. Give me some feedback, some ahas. What do you think, Misty?
I think Shift was very great. For me being a new agent, I learned a lot over
Tell me what you
the
learned.
classes. I don't know, let me key into some things. Well, today, you know, how to sure proof your deal. That's preventative for me, you know, like, okay, should these things come up, these are, you know, things